My name is Bob Fulcher. I'm from Clinton, Tennessee, and I'm an NEA National Heritage Fellow. My interest in traditional culture came about without my own will working over it. I simply moved to Tennessee and found that I loved the music that was being played by older musicians from Tennessee. I couldn't resist it. I wanted to play it. And then I became interested in the people who were playing the music. Both were profound experiences and discoveries. The material that laid before me when I first discovered it, and it was just like a great banquet. It seemed bottomless, but that was fine. When I got my first job in state parks, and I put on an Old Timers Day. This was at Pickett State Park in 1976. People from the community started to speak to me about musicians that they knew about. I wanted to meet their friends and take my little cassette recorder there. Some wonderful people, Opal Sharp was one of the most important, started to introduce me to the Sharp family. Then I'd hear about other musicians and others, and I began to visit them and record their music. They were so welcoming and happy that someone was interested enough to knock on their door and ask them to play. There was nothing to it. I went to seek out a man named D. Hicks. D. Hicks, who was sitting there before me, was the greatest reservoir of Anglo-American folk song who has ever been documented, to my knowledge. When I heard D. Hicks sing Old Bang 'Em, I'd never heard anything like that, and I was transfixed.
Old Bang 'Em caught him by his tail, down, down. Old Bang 'Em caught him by his tail, come me coo quan, and with a hickory did him frail, come me coo kettle dan kelly co quan.
They had just opened a new program at the Library of Congress, the American Folklife Center, and a loan program to loan out equipment like a Snobber recorder right here. I wrote him a letter with a list of the ballads I'd collected on my little cassette recorder and a list of the fiddle tunes that I'd recorded, and said these are examples of some of the musicians. As it turns out, I was I think the fourth person to get an equipment loan from the Library of Congress. With that equipment, I was able also to record Clyde Davenport, who I'd already met, and he was a brilliant fiddle player. This is a style that holds notes so that the droning strings pick up sympathetic vibration and fill the room with the sound of one fiddle by itself. The National Endowment for the Arts had just started a grants program. I heard that Bess Hawes, who was over the folk arts program of NEA, would be in Memphis, and I drove to Memphis to go to hear her talk about that grant program. I had an idea that was a folk life survey, but I said, we've got to have a folk life team, and we need to document the culture and the arts of Tennessee and Tennesseans.
Well, the Tennessee State Parks Folklife Project placed folklorists in state parks around Tennessee over a summer period, and their responsibility was to basically just do as much field work as they possibly could, and then to put on public programs in the state parks. And it was very intensive and very rigorous. But you also learned how to work in a community and how to build relationships and to learn what the obligations and responsibilities of that were. And Bob, he is one of the best field workers I've ever seen in my life. He really knows how to get people talking, he knows how to get people to the heart of the matter, and he goes at their pace. He kind of lets people reveal themselves at whatever level they want to do that, and that's a really valuable thing.
I've had about 60 positions funded by grants or funded through the state budget for seasonal workers That has meant that we've had a steady but unending stream of contributions work to create that collection. This is an extremely significant collection for the state of Tennessee, and I hope that it can survive and persist because I know it will be a benefit to people.
Bobby is a master of capturing and conveying real sights and sounds made by real people in a most compelling way.
In the state of Tennessee, there's no one really that even comes close to matching Bobby's standard and stamina for public programming. He's had projects that have garnered national attention and had national influence. If you look back at the Tennessee Banjo Institute, it was one of the first events to bring together African string musicians to show that evolution, to show that continuity between African music, African American music, and American music. He's still producing large-scale concerts with dozens of musicians and interpretive photography and video in major venues in Tennessee. He founded and runs a recording label, Sandrock Records, that has released many highly significant albums, but I think maybe his most consequential contributions have been in the lives of other young folklorists that he has trained, the values that he has encouraged. He has a way of knowing and seeing the world that is addicting. You want to be there with him. You want to share that with him.
All of this is music that has electrified its listeners. It has stirred its listeners. And so it's here. It's like a bird song, and you might listen to a blue jay and say, I don't like that sound. Well, that blue jay's still there. And we believe that that beauty is there for someone that's wise enough to find it.
Oh, I took the steering in my hand, and we steered our way through the Cumberland land.